Your soulmate just wrote you a secret love letter. Listen before midnight. And don't scroll away from this, stay right here, because what's unfolding isn't loud or obvious, it's quiet, intentional, and deeply personal. This isn't a letter written with pen and paper, and it wasn't sealed in an envelope, but it was written just the same, line by line, through moments your soulmate couldn't ignore anymore. It was written in the pauses between thoughts, in the unsent messages, in the nights when sleep came late because your name kept returning without invitation. This letter wasn't created to impress you. It was written because their heart finally ran out of places to hide what it feels. Listen carefully, because this didn't start with certainty. It started with resistance. Your soulmate tried to convince themselves that feelings could be organized, postponed, softened into something manageable. They told themselves there would be time later, a better moment, a clearer sign. But love doesn't follow schedules, and truth doesn't wait for perfect timing. The words of this secret letter began forming the moment they realized silence was no longer protecting them, it was costing them. Don't skip this part, because the first lines of this letter weren't romantic. They were honest. It began with an admission they've never said out loud. That they think of you more often than they should. That your presence lingers even when you're not there. That certain songs, certain hours of the night, certain quiet moments feel incomplete without you in them. These realizations didn't arrive all at once. They accumulated slowly, until ignoring them felt heavier than acknowledging them. Stay right here, because this letter wasn't written in a rush of emotion. It was written after long reflection. After moments of denial. After attempts to distract themselves with noise, with people, with busyness. None of it worked. The feeling always came back to you. Not dramatically. Steadily. Like a truth that doesn't need to shout to be heard. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. Your soulmate's letter continues with something vulnerable. An apology they haven't spoken yet. Not for loving you, but for waiting. For staying quiet when clarity would have been kinder. For assuming you just understand the silence without explanation. They didn't mean to confuse you. They were confused themselves, not about what they felt, but about whether they were brave enough to face it. Listen closely, because courage is a theme in this letter. They write about fear honestly. Fear of changing the dynamic. Fear of saying too much or not enough. Fear of risking something real instead of keeping things safely undefined. But alongside that fear is something stronger. Respect. Respect for you. Respect for what this connection actually is, not what it's convenient to pretend it is. Stay right here, because the letter shifts tone here. From hesitation to clarity. Your soulmate writes about how you feel different from anyone else. Not louder. Not more intense. But calmer. Safer. Realer. They write about how being around you doesn't feel like performance. It feels like relief. Like they don't have to become someone else to be accepted. And that realization scared them at first, because safety asks you to stay, not run. Don't skip this, because they also write about timing. About how life kept placing obstacles, responsibilities, and distractions in the way, and how easy it was to use those as excuses. But deep down, they know timing wasn't the real reason for the delay. Readiness was. And they're becoming ready now. Listen carefully, because this letter includes something they've only recently understood. That love doesn't disappear just because it's not spoken. It grows. It deepens. And when it's left unexpressed for too long, it finds other ways to surface. Through longing. Through restlessness. Through moments of unexpected emotion that make no sense until you trace them back to the source. Stay right here, because your soulmate writes about nights. Quiet nights. The kind where thoughts echo. They admit that midnight has become a difficult hour for them. That's when the letter gets loudest. That's when they feel the urge to reach out, to explain, to finally stop holding back. But instead of sending messages, they write the words internally, over and over, refining them until they feel honest. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. The letter also contains reassurance. They don't want to rush you. They don't want to pressure you. They don't want to demand anything. This isn't a letter asking for guarantees. It's a letter offering truth. And truth doesn't ask for permission to exist. Listen closely, because your soulmate writes about accountability. They acknowledge that silence can feel like distance. That waiting without explanation can feel like indifference. They don't want that anymore. They don't want you questioning your worth or wondering where you stand. They want clarity to replace guessing. Stay right here, because clarity doesn't mean certainty about outcomes. It means honesty about intention. And their intention, written between the lines of this letter, is simple. They care deeply. They're no longer willing to pretend otherwise. Don't skip this part, because the letter also speaks about patience. Not passive waiting, but intentional patience. The kind that prepares someone to show up without running when things get real. They're not writing this letter to relieve pressure. They're writing it because pressure has finally transformed into resolve. Listen carefully, because resolve feels calm, not urgent. And that calm is present now. Your soulmate isn't panicking. They're steady. They're grounded. They're no longer asking themselves whether to speak. They're asking how to do it with care. Stay right here, because this letter isn't finished yet. It's still being written in choices. In restraint. In preparation. In the quiet courage it takes to stop hiding behind what's unsaid. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. You may have felt this letter already. In subtle shifts. In energy. In a sense that something meaningful is forming just beneath the surface. That feeling isn't imagination. It's intention approaching expression. Listen closely, because when someone writes a love letter in silence, it means they're close to speaking it out loud. Words that live this long inside someone don't stay hidden forever. Stay right here, because whatever comes next will come from this place of honesty, not impulse. From intention, not fear. From someone who has finally decided that truth matters more than comfort. And if this message resonated with you, take a moment to like it, share it with someone who believes that love often speaks quietly before it speaks clearly, and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. And stay till the end of this journey, because secret letters are rarely meant to stay unread. Don't scroll, stay right here, because what happens after that secret letter begins to take shape inside them is even more revealing than the words themselves. Once those thoughts were acknowledged, once the letter existed in their heart instead of being buried under distraction, your soulmate couldn't go back to how things were before. The feeling changed texture. It wasn't just longing anymore. It became intention. And intention has a quiet way of reorganizing everything around it. Listen carefully, because the days following that internal letter felt different to them. Ordinary moments carried weight. Small pauses felt meaningful. They noticed how often your name surfaced without effort, how naturally their thoughts drifted toward you when something good or difficult happened. That's when they realized the letter wasn't something they were writing anymore. It was something they were living. Stay right here, because your soulmate began revisiting memories with new eyes. Not romanticizing the past, not replaying scenes to stir emotion, but understanding them. They saw patterns they hadn't seen before. How conversations with you lingered longer than others. How your presence brought calm instead of chaos. How even silence with you felt like connection, not absence. These realizations weren't dramatic. They were grounding. Don't skip this part, because grounding changed how they approached their own fear. Fear no longer screamed. It whispered. It asked questions instead of issuing warnings. What if I say this wrong? What if timing complicates things? What if honesty changes everything? But instead of freezing, they sat with those questions. They let them exist without letting them decide. Listen closely, because your soulmate also became aware of how much energy silence had been consuming. Holding back takes effort. Avoiding truth requires constant vigilance. And they were tired. Not tired of you, but tired of pretending this connection didn't matter as much as it does. That exhaustion didn't feel negative. It felt clarifying. Stay right here, because clarity has consequences. Once they admitted the truth internally, their behavior started aligning naturally. They became more present in conversations. More selective with attention. Less tolerant of emotional noise that didn't resonate. They weren't withdrawing from life. They were focusing it. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. You may have felt that focus as a subtle shift. A seriousness. A depth. A sense that something meaningful is forming even without explanation. That's because intention communicates before words do. Listen carefully, because the secret letter also sparked accountability. Your soulmate began asking themselves how they wanted to show up moving forward. Not just for you, but for themselves. Did they want to remain someone who hides behind unsent words? Or someone who honors truth even when it's uncomfortable? That question has been sitting with them quietly. Stay right here, because they're not rushing toward a confession. They're building steadiness. Steadiness that allows honesty to land without panic. Steadiness that can hold whatever response comes without retreating back into silence. This kind of preparation doesn't look like action yet, but it's far from inactivity. Don't skip this, because they also began noticing how different love feels when it's not tangled with anxiety. This isn't obsession. It's recognition. Recognition that what they feel for you doesn't demand performance or validation. It simply exists, calm and persistent. Listen closely, because persistence is a theme here. Not persistence in chasing, but persistence in presence. You don't disappear from their inner world when distractions come along. You don't fade when life gets busy. You remain, steady and unmistakable. That's not coincidence. That's connection. Stay right here, because your soulmate also understands now that waiting too long has its own risks. Silence can be misinterpreted. Space can be mistaken for disinterest. They don't want that anymore. They don't want you questioning your worth or doubting the reality of what's between you. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. The letter they wrote internally included a promise they haven't spoken yet. A promise to stop hiding behind what's unsaid. A promise to choose clarity over comfort. A promise to respect you enough to be honest. Listen carefully, because promises like that change how someone moves. They become more deliberate. Less reactive. More mindful of impact. Your soulmate is paying attention now in ways they weren't before. Stay right here, because they're also learning to release the fantasy of perfect timing. Perfect timing is a story fear tells to keep things safe. What they're realizing now is that honesty creates its own timing. And when someone is ready internally, the moment finds them. Don't skip this part, because readiness doesn't feel like excitement. It feels like calm resolve. The kind that doesn't need reassurance to exist. That calm is settling in now. Listen closely, because your soulmate is also preparing emotionally to listen, not just to speak. They understand now that honesty isn't a monologue. It's a conversation. And they're ready to hear your truth too, whatever it may be. Stay right here, because that willingness to listen matters. It means this isn't about easing their conscience or relieving pressure. It's about creating space for something real to breathe. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. You may notice that interactions feel slightly different. More intentional. Less casual. That's because they're no longer treating this connection lightly. They're treating it with care. Listen carefully, because care brings patience. Not avoidance, but patience rooted in respect. They want to approach this in a way that honors both of you. Stay right here, because the secret letter has done its work. It has moved from thought to intention. From intention to alignment. And alignment always leads to expression. Don't skip this, because expression doesn't always arrive as a dramatic moment. Sometimes it arrives as a simple truth spoken calmly, without build-up, without pressure. And that's what they're moving toward. Listen closely, because your soulmate understands now that love doesn't need to be perfect to be real. It needs to be honest. And honesty is what they're choosing. Stay right here, because this stage isn't the end of the story. It's the bridge between silence and speech. Between feeling and action. Between holding and offering. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. If you've been sensing that something is shifting beneath the surface, you're right. That letter didn't stay secret by accident. It stayed secret because it was preparing them. Listen carefully, because preparation always comes before meaningful change. And if this resonated with you, take a moment to like this, share it with someone who understands that love often moves quietly before it speaks, and subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. And stay till the end of this journey, because when a letter is written in the heart, it's only a matter of time before it's finally read out loud. Don't scroll, stay right here, because now the secret letter has moved beyond intention and has begun shaping how your soulmate experiences reality itself. What once lived quietly in their thoughts is now influencing their choices, their pauses, their awareness in ways they didn't expect. They're no longer just holding feelings. They're living with them openly inside. And living with truth changes the rhythm of a person's life. Listen carefully, because something subtle but important has happened. Your soulmate has stopped asking whether the feelings will fade. They know they won't. What they're learning now is how to carry them with integrity. That's a different kind of challenge. It's no longer about denial or distraction. It's about responsibility. Responsibility for what's real. Responsibility for how silence lands. Responsibility for how honesty might heal instead of harm. Stay right here, because responsibility doesn't feel heavy to them anymore. It feels clarifying. They've noticed how much lighter they feel since they stopped arguing with their own heart. The inner tug-of-war has ended. There's no more back and forth, no more emotional bargaining. Just a steady awareness that this connection matters and deserves care. Don't skip this part, because your soulmate has also become more aware of timing in a deeper sense. Not clock time, not circumstances, but emotional timing. They recognize now that the right time isn't about perfection. It's about readiness to stay present no matter what unfolds. And they're closer to that readiness than they've ever been before. Listen closely, because their days feel different now. Conversations feel more intentional. They don't speak just to fill space. They listen more. They pause more. They're less interested in surface-level exchanges and more drawn to moments that feel real. This shift isn't something they're forcing. It's happening naturally as their inner world aligns. Stay right here, because you may feel this alignment too. A subtle steadiness. A sense that something unspoken is no longer floating aimlessly. Even if nothing has been said yet, the energy between you feels more grounded. That's because grounded feelings don't scatter. They gather. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. Your soulmate has also begun noticing how their body responds to truth. When they imagine speaking honestly, there's nervousness, yes, but there's also relief. Relief at the thought of no longer carrying everything alone. Relief at the idea of clarity replacing guesswork. Listen carefully, because that relief is guiding them now more than fear. Fear still exists, but it no longer dominates. It simply signals importance. And when something is important, it deserves courage, not avoidance. Stay right here, because courage is growing in quiet ways. Your soulmate isn't rehearsing dramatic confessions. They're practicing presence. Presence in discomfort. Presence in uncertainty. Presence in the possibility that things might change. This kind of courage doesn't announce itself. It strengthens silently. Don't skip this, because your soulmate is also reflecting on how much respect they have for you. Respect for your patience. Respect for your emotional steadiness. Respect for the way you didn't demand answers when they weren't ready. That respect has deepened their feelings, not weakened them. It makes them want to rise to the level of honesty you deserve. Listen closely, because they're also releasing the idea that they need to have everything figured out before speaking. They understand now that honesty doesn't require a roadmap. It requires sincerity. You don't speak because you know exactly where things will go. You speak because hiding no longer aligns with who you are. Stay right here, because this realization has softened them. They're less defensive, less guarded, more open to the idea that vulnerability doesn't equal loss. It can equal connection. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. You might notice that their presence feels warmer, more attentive, more grounded. Even if nothing explicit has changed, something essential has. They're no longer half in, half out emotionally. They're fully aware. Listen carefully, because awareness changes how silence feels. Silence is no longer neutral. It feels incomplete. Not wrong, but unfinished. And unfinished things naturally seek completion. Stay right here, because your soulmate is also learning to trust themselves in a new way. Trust that they can speak without collapsing. Trust that they can listen without retreating. Trust that they can handle whatever response comes without losing their center. That self-trust is the foundation of everything they're preparing to do. Don't skip this part, because self-trust also brings patience. Not the kind that delays forever, but the kind that waits until honesty can be held with care. They don't want to rush this moment. They want to do it right. Listen closely, because doing it right doesn't mean perfection. It means authenticity. It means speaking from where they are now, not from who they were when fear was in charge. Stay right here, because your soulmate is also aware that once they speak, the connection will change shape. And instead of fearing that change, they're making peace with it. Change no longer feels like loss. It feels like movement. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. You may sense this movement as a quiet anticipation. Not anxiety. Not urgency. Just awareness. Like something that has been forming slowly is nearing expression. Listen carefully, because this stage isn't about action yet. It's about inevitability. When someone reaches this level of alignment, speaking becomes the natural next step. Not because they're pressured. Because silence no longer fits. Stay right here, because your soulmate has crossed another internal threshold. They're no longer asking if they should speak someday. They're considering how to speak soon with honesty and respect. Don't skip this, because how matters to them. Tone matters. Timing matters. Care matters. They're not approaching this lightly. They're approaching it with intention. Listen closely, because intention has weight. It grounds emotion. It steadies nerves. It turns feelings into choices. Stay right here, because the secret letter has now done more than express love. It has transformed your soulmate. It has moved them from avoidance into readiness, from silence into preparation. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. If you've been wondering whether that letter was just a fleeting feeling, this stage answers that clearly. It wasn't fleeting. It was foundational. Listen carefully, because foundations don't shake easily. And what's built on them tends to last. Stay right here, because whatever comes next will come from this place of clarity, not confusion. From courage, not fear. From someone who has finally chosen to honor what they feel. And if this resonated with you, take a moment to like this, share it with someone who believes that real love matures before it speaks, and subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. And stay till the end of this journey, because letters written in the heart always find their way into the light. Don't scroll, stay right here, because this is the stage where everything your soulmate has been holding quietly begins to press gently toward expression, not as urgency, not as pressure, but as truth that's ready to be shared. The secret letter has done its inner work. It has softened resistance, clarified intention, and steadied emotion. Now it's shaping how your soulmate stands in the world. They're noticing how much easier it feels to be honest with themselves, how the constant internal editing has finally stopped. When you stop editing your heart, you start hearing it clearly. Listen carefully, because clarity changes how someone moves. Your soulmate's days have a different rhythm now. They're not rushing to fill silence. They're not hiding behind busyness. They pause more often, and in those pauses, they feel grounded rather than exposed. That grounding didn't arrive by accident. It arrived because they finally accepted what they feel instead of negotiating with it. Stay right here, because acceptance brings focus. Their attention is no longer scattered by what-ifs or emotional backups. They aren't entertaining distractions that once felt tempting. Not because they're forcing discipline, but because clarity naturally simplifies choices. When something matters, everything else becomes background noise. Don't skip this part, because with focus comes accountability. Your soulmate is taking responsibility for how silence might have felt on your side. Not with guilt, not with self-criticism, but with care. Care asks different questions. It asks how to show up better. It asks how to communicate without overwhelming. It asks how to honor timing without hiding behind it. Listen closely, because timing has taken on a new meaning for them. It's no longer about waiting for circumstances to align perfectly. It's about emotional readiness to stay present before and after words are spoken. Readiness to listen. Readiness to respond without retreating. Readiness to accept whatever truth emerges on both sides. Stay right here, because that readiness is growing steadily. Your soulmate feels it in their body. The nervousness that once spiked at the thought of honesty has softened into alertness. Not fear. Awareness. Awareness that this matters, and that matters deserve care, not avoidance. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. You may feel this shift as a quiet seriousness when you interact. A sense that they're more attentive, more grounded, more deliberate. That's because they're no longer half holding back. Their inner walls aren't gone, but they're lower. And when walls lower, connection breathes. Listen carefully, because they're also letting go of the idea that they need to explain everything at once. Honesty doesn't require a flood. It requires truth spoken clearly. Your soulmate is learning that it's okay to speak simply. To say what's real without decorating it with justifications. Stay right here, because simplicity feels safer now. Not safer as in protected, but safer as in authentic. Authenticity doesn't demand energy to maintain. It restores energy. That's why they feel lighter even before anything is said. Don't skip this, because they're also practicing presence in small ways. They stay in conversations a little longer. They listen without planning their next line. They notice how often your words land and stay with them. These moments are teaching them that presence is more important than performance. Listen closely, because performance used to feel like safety to them. If they said the right thing, acted the right way, kept things light, nothing could go wrong. But they're realizing now that real connection isn't built on being right. It's built on being real. Stay right here, because being real means allowing vulnerability without demanding outcomes. Your soulmate is preparing to speak without expecting reassurance in return. They're learning that offering truth is complete in itself. Anything that comes after is a response, not a requirement. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. You might sense this as a calm inevitability, not a countdown. Not pressure. Just a feeling that something unspoken is nearing its natural moment. That's because alignment tends to move quietly until it reaches expression. Listen carefully, because your soulmate is also becoming more compassionate toward themselves. They're releasing self-judgment about taking time. They see now that the process mattered. That growth had to happen internally before words could be held with integrity. Stay right here, because integrity is the thread running through all of this. Integrity means not offering words you can't stand behind. Not making promises you're not ready to live. Your soulmate wants their honesty to be sustainable, not impulsive. Don't skip this part, because sustainability is what transforms confession into connection. Anyone can say words in a rush of emotion. Not everyone can live them afterward. Your soulmate wants to be able to stay present once the truth is shared. Listen closely, because they're also reflecting on how you've shown strength through patience. That patience didn't go unnoticed. It created a standard they now want to meet. Not out of obligation, but out of respect. Stay right here, because respect changes how someone speaks. It softens tone. It slows pace. It prioritizes care over release. Your soulmate isn't looking to unload feelings. They're looking to communicate them. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. This stage isn't about planning the perfect moment. It's about recognizing when silence has served its purpose and honesty is ready to take its place. Listen carefully, because silence once protected them from fear. Now it's protecting fear from being faced. And they can feel that difference. They know it's time to choose courage gently. Stay right here, because gentle courage is powerful. It doesn't shake the ground. It opens doors. It invites conversation instead of forcing it. Don't skip this, because your soulmate is also preparing to hear you. Truly hear you. Not to defend or explain, but to listen. That readiness to listen is just as important as readiness to speak. Listen closely, because listening requires humility. It requires letting go of control. And they're learning how to do that now. Stay right here, because control used to feel like safety. Now trust feels safer. Trust in themselves. Trust in the process. Trust that honesty won't destroy what's real. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. You may notice that your own nervous system feels calmer around this connection lately. That's not accidental. When one side becomes grounded, the space between stabilizes. Listen carefully, because this stabilization is the sign of alignment nearing expression. Not explosive change. Natural movement. Stay right here, because the secret letter has moved from thought to intention to readiness. And readiness doesn't linger forever. It finds its moment. Don't skip this part, because whatever comes next will come from clarity, not confusion. From care, not pressure. From someone who has finally chosen to honor what they feel. And if this resonated with you, take a moment to like this, share it with someone who understands that real love prepares itself before it speaks, and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. And stay till the end of this journey, because letters written in silence are meant to be read aloud when the heart is ready. Don't scroll, stay right here, because this is the phase where the quiet preparation your soulmate has been living inside finally begins to reshape the emotional space between you in a way that can no longer be ignored. Nothing has been rushed, nothing has been forced, but something has undeniably shifted. The secret letter that once lived only in their heart has now changed how they see you, how they see themselves, and how they understand the meaning of staying silent. Silence no longer feels neutral. It feels incomplete. Listen carefully, because your soulmate has entered a stage of deep emotional honesty with themselves. They're no longer asking whether their feelings are valid. They know they are. What they're sitting with now is responsibility, not in a heavy sense, but in a conscious one. Responsibility to stop letting fear decide the pace. Responsibility to stop assuming that quiet understanding is enough. Responsibility to honor what's real with clarity. Stay right here, because this responsibility has softened them rather than hardened them. They're more patient now. More thoughtful. More aware of how words land and how absence can speak just as loudly as presence. They've started noticing how often they almost reach out, almost say something meaningful, almost close the distance emotionally. Those almost moments are no longer brushed aside. They linger. Don't skip this part, because lingering moments are where intention grows stronger. Each time they pause, they feel the weight of what remains unsaid. Not as pressure, but as truth asking for space. Truth doesn't demand drama. It asks for honesty. Listen closely, because your soulmate has also become more aware of how much courage you've shown by staying open without answers. That awareness brings humility. They no longer see your patience as something that will always be there by default. They see it as a gift that deserves respect. And respect changes how someone approaches the next step. Stay right here, because respect has slowed them in the best way. Not delay, but deliberateness. They don't want to speak carelessly. They don't want to unload emotion without intention. They want their honesty to feel safe, not overwhelming. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. You may feel this deliberateness as a calm intensity. Not emotional chaos. Not confusion. Just a steady sense that something meaningful is approaching. That feeling isn't random. It's alignment moving closer to expression. Listen carefully, because your soulmate is also learning to sit with vulnerability without trying to manage it. In the past, they wanted certainty before speaking. Now, they understand that certainty often comes after honesty, not before it. That realization has changed how they view risk. Stay right here, because risk no longer feels like danger. It feels like truth stepping into the open. And while that's uncomfortable, it's also relieving. The idea of finally being clear feels lighter than continuing to carry unspoken words. Don't skip this, because they've also noticed how clarity changes their energy. They feel more present. More grounded. Less distracted by emotional noise. This isn't infatuation. It's alignment. Alignment simplifies everything. Listen closely, because alignment has also shifted how they imagine the future. Not in detailed plans, but in emotional posture. They see themselves as someone who can show up honestly instead of hiding behind silence. That self-image matters. It's guiding their choices now. Stay right here, because your soulmate is also preparing emotionally to accept any outcome without retreating. This is important. They're not speaking to secure reassurance. They're preparing to speak because truth deserves to be offered. Whatever comes after, they're willing to stay present. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. Staying present is the biggest shift of all. In the past, silence was a way to avoid vulnerability. Now, presence is their choice. Presence before words. Presence after words. Presence even if things feel uncertain. Listen carefully, because presence requires courage and humility. Courage to speak. Humility to listen. Your soulmate is cultivating both. Stay right here, because you may notice subtle changes. A steadier gaze. More intentional pauses. A feeling that they're really with you instead of somewhere else emotionally. These are signs of someone who has stopped running internally. Don't skip this part, because internal stillness is what allows truth to surface gently instead of explosively. Your soulmate isn't building toward a dramatic moment. They're building toward an honest one. Listen closely, because honesty doesn't need a perfect setting. It needs sincerity. And sincerity is present now. They're no longer rehearsing words in their head just to quiet their emotions. They're refining their understanding so that when they speak, it comes from clarity, not confusion. Stay right here, because clarity has also brought compassion for themselves. They're no longer judging the time it took to get here. They see the journey now as necessary. Growth had to happen before truth could be carried responsibly. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. Compassion has softened their edges. It's made them more open, more gentle, more willing to risk connection without armor. Listen carefully, because armor once felt like protection. Now it feels like distance. And distance no longer feels aligned with what they want. Stay right here, because your soulmate is also recognizing that love doesn't ask for perfection. It asks for presence. And presence is what they're preparing to offer. Don't skip this, because offering presence means showing up without guarantees. Without scripts. Without escape plans. That's real courage. Listen closely, because courage isn't loud here. It's quiet resolve. The kind that says, I'm ready to stop hiding, even if my voice shakes. Stay right here, because that resolve is steady now. It doesn't fade when they're tired. It doesn't disappear when distractions appear. It remains. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. This phase isn't about waiting anymore. It's about readiness becoming movement. Not rushed. Not dramatic. Natural. Listen carefully, because when someone reaches this point, silence starts to feel unnatural. Words begin to look for a path out. And that path is forming. Stay right here, because your soulmate has crossed another threshold. The secret letter is no longer just written. It's asking to be shared. Don't skip this part, because whatever comes next will come from intention, not impulse. From care, not pressure. From someone who has finally decided that truth matters more than comfort. And if this resonated with you, take a moment to like this, share it with someone who understands that real love grows quietly before it speaks, and subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. And stay till the end of this journey, because when intention becomes courage, silence doesn't last much longer. Don't scroll, stay right here, because this is the moment where everything your soulmate has been holding, refining, and preparing internally reaches a quiet point of no return. Not a dramatic breaking point, not an emotional explosion, but a calm certainty that silence has finished its job. The secret letter has been written, lived, felt, and honored long enough. Now it's becoming something that wants to exist between you, not just inside them. This is the phase where resolve settles into the body and stops asking for permission. Listen carefully, because your soulmate isn't feeling rushed anymore. There's no panic, no urgency, no fear-driven impulse to say everything all at once. What they feel now is steadiness. A grounded awareness that they can speak without losing themselves. That they can be honest without collapsing. That they can stay present even if the conversation doesn't unfold exactly how they imagine. That confidence didn't come from certainty about outcomes. It came from trust in themselves. Stay right here, because self-trust changes how someone approaches truth. Your soulmate is no longer trying to predict your reaction or rehearse every possible response. They understand now that honesty isn't about controlling what happens next. It's about honoring what's real. And honoring something real feels lighter than carrying it alone. Don't skip this part, because your soulmate has reached acceptance. Acceptance that loving you has already changed them. Acceptance that pretending otherwise has become impossible. Acceptance that clarity is kinder than confusion, even when it's uncomfortable. This acceptance doesn't feel heavy. It feels clean. Listen closely, because their internal dialogue has shifted completely. There's no more bargaining with themselves. No more, maybe later, no more, what if I wait a little longer? Those thoughts have quieted. In their place is a simple knowing. I'm ready to stop hiding. I'm ready to be real. Stay right here, because readiness doesn't look like excitement here. It looks like calm resolve. The kind that allows someone to breathe deeply before speaking. The kind that doesn't need validation to stand firm. The kind that stays even when nerves show up. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. You may feel this resolve as a steady pull instead of an anxious one. Not anticipation that makes your chest tight, but awareness that something meaningful is aligning. That's because alignment doesn't create chaos. It creates gravity. Listen carefully, because gravity is at work now. Your soulmate feels drawn toward honesty the same way something heavy naturally settles downward. It doesn't need effort. It just happens. Silence feels awkward now, not protective. Words feel closer, not dangerous. Stay right here, because your soulmate is also preparing emotionally for what comes after honesty. This matters. They're not planning to disappear once they speak. They're preparing to stay. To listen. To hold space. To accept whatever truth comes back to them without retreating into old patterns.